Hello, bonjour, and welcome to the Don't Waste Water podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Walter, and before welcoming my guest, I'd like to thank you. You've been almost 120,000 to tune in every Wednesday over the past 6 months, whether on LinkedIn or directly from your favorite podcatcher. To say I'm amazed is an understatement, and I want us to do even better in season 2. This starts with you. If you like this show, grab your colleagues' phones and subscribe them to the podcast. Then head over to LinkedIn and tag 2 of your peers in the infographic comments. This steady growth is what enables me to convince amazing guests to join me on the mic. We're in this together, guys. Speaking of amazing guests, I am thrilled to kick off this season 2 with Elango Thevar. Elango is the founder and CEO of NEER.ai, a startup that aims to redefine water management through artificial intelligence. In this episode, Elango will tell us why he left a really cushy job where he was making good money, and this in the middle of a pandemic. He'll reveal how reading one book was a decisive trigger to leverage his 15-year corporate experience and make an impact that lasts. He'll tell us why you might be betting on the wrong horse today when you're planning your infrastructure works, especially if you're a smaller community, and how his technology will finally enable you to make the most out of every dollar you invest in upgrading your network. Last but not least, he'll explain how all of this allows you to cut your non-revenue water, improve your sustainability, and build for tomorrow. And trust me, listening to Elango, you will swiftly figure out why his company just got selected to join the Elemental Accelerator straight after completing Generator. All of this and more directly after the credits.
You're listening to Don't Waste Water, the podcast that helps water professionals to improve their wastewater treatment, optimize their operation costs, and keep up with the latest market trends. This podcast is brought to you by GF Piping Systems. As a leading supplier of piping systems made of plastics and metal, GF Piping Systems is the global expert for the safe and reliable transportation of water, chemicals, and gas. For more information, visit gfps.com.
Hi, Elango. Welcome to the show. I'm really glad you joined me today. I really like to start with a postcard, and I think you are in a beautiful place, Kansas City. How's the weather today? How's the city today?
Hi, Antoine. Thank you so much for bringing me on the show. Yes, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. I've been here for the last 15 years. So the weather is beautiful here. It's nice and sunny, so love it.
So what brought you to Kansas City? Actually, you said you're there for 15 years, but how did you end up being in Kansas City? And does that have something to do with your path?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in a very small town in India, less than, 1,000 people. And very, very tip of the South India. And then you can actually see, if you go to the ocean, you can probably see the Sri Lanka from there. So I grew up there, small town, until I was, 15. And then I moved to another city called Chennai. Probably heard about, if you're in the water nerd, the city is experiencing some water stress there. So I spent my bachelor's degree in Chennai 4 to 6 years there before I moved to the United States for higher studies. So I came here for higher studies to do my master's degree in environmental engineering at Oklahoma State University, which is in Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's where I came to the United States in 2002. And I was there for 3 years, got my master's done. And then I worked for a very small laboratory, environmental lab / kind of an engineering company. They have a small engineering division, like a 2-person team. So I went and, talked to the owner and, hey, I'm just, I want to work for you. You just want to grab the job that whatever you can get right after graduation. So I worked there for like 8 months, maybe 9, almost it's like close to a year. And I was, go to different water and wastewater treatment plants. My job is to grab samples and then bring back to the lab and analyze it, the BOD, COD, and, the chlorine residuals on the distribution systems, the disinfection byproducts. That was the time they was forcing a lot of regulations, 2005. So bring those samples to the lab and analyze it and then, help the communities of the water and wastewater treatment plants to send the report to EPA, the state EPA pretty much. That's what I started my career in water. And in Kansas City, my ex-girlfriend was actually, pretty close to here. So I wanted to be closer to her. That's how I ended up in Kansas City. And I got a really great job here, a big consulting firm. they're based in Boston, but they have a great office here in Kansas City. So that's how I transitioned from kind of a small, kind of a engineering technician to a full-blown engineer in 2005 September. That's how I moved to Kansas City. I fell in love with the place, and I've been here for the last 15 years. My wife, she grew up here, so I ended up settling down in Kansas City. So
you were like 15 years in the corporate world, and then all of a sudden you move out from that corporate world and you create your own company, NEER. How does that happen?
Yeah. When I transitioned from that, small engineering technician to a water resource engineer, that was my title. I really loved the digital modeling, and then helping a lot of communities. And I was not kind of like, what's next? It's always kind of like, okay, are you happy or you want to do something different? So I went back did part-time MBA around 2014 to 2016 while I was working full-time. And here in UMKC, this is University of Missouri, Kansas City, Block's great school, MBA, did MBA in entrepreneurship and finance. That was my emphasis on. I had no idea how this is going to help with, my job, role, but I really enjoyed the process of going through the MBA program, giving me the business perspective about, why we do things, what we do from our organization level. And then I was still, continue to work full time as a, civil engineer, slash asset management expert in the water sewers, stormwater industry. It was great. And then starting of this year, I think I would say February or March, I decided to leave my full-time job and, start my own company. So I started near April, but I would say the triggering point in my life is I read this book called Troubled Water by Seth Siegel, which is What's Wrong with What We Drink. It focuses on American water system. I don't know if you know Seth Siegel. He wrote a book called Let There Be Water before. He's a great author. And in that book, he talks about the challenges, faced by the American water system in terms of the water main break and the water quality issues, the PFAS and all those stuff. One of those pages, I was listening on the podcast. I didn't get the book hard copy at that time. And then he was talking about how many water utilities in the United States. And then I've been in the water industry for 15 years and I had no idea. There was 52,000 drinking water utilities, just the drinking water utilities. And then add the sewer water system and stormwater system. So we're getting very close to like a 90,000 water, sewer, and stormwater system. So I bought the hard copy and then I looked the page number, where that breakdown, how many sizes, different utilities. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm done with being a full-time engineer and I want to go and do something, build something and help smaller, medium-sized communities. That was the triggering point. So I started NEER in April, started building the platform, especially triggered, to those communities that have been struggling to meet the modern tools and all those meet the regulations and fix their water main break, asset management, all that stuff. So I needed to create something for those people, especially because it's almost embarrassing to be a water engineer and not to create something to help these communities. So that's what I felt that, deeply emotionally. And that's why I left and start this journey. So
you read the book, you get the epiphany. And when people would just spend years thinking about what they could do, you actually leave your job, you start a company. And not only do you start a company, but you're already in your second accelerator program. So it sounds like you must have whether touched something and touched a nerve and really found something which is a big pain, or maybe you have a secret sauce or an extra talent, or maybe a combination of those. So what's your secret sauce?
No, there's nothing secret sauce. I think it was probably the right timing, I would say. I left during pandemic. I was supposed to leave in March, but I left in the first week of April. But in Generator, that happened right away, in May, because of my MBA definitely helped me, what is the best way to actually build a company is, well, you can go raise money, especially in the Midwest, in Kansas City, you cannot raise money because even a very high growth companies, investors are very, very conservative, risk averse, right? Because my MBA definitely helped me understand that kind of scene, how the high tech companies like Uber, Airbnb, and that got, built through VC's money and everything. So if you really want to build a kind of a massive change, you definitely need some help. The best way to start is to apply to some of those early stage accelerator program. They can actually help you get to the next level. I left a really cushy job. I was making good money, but this is the time that, I really wanted to take risk and see, what I can do with, build. You can always go back and be an engineer, but this is the time that you want to experiment and fail fast, right? So definitely the MBA background helped me. And I didn't waste any beat. Right after I left, we just started building like crazy, nights and weekends, and apply to all this Techstars and all these programs, and Generator happened, and they extremely, great program. I would say they are one of the, top, right neck to neck with Techstar program, and great people there. And they supported us first, and we went through, it's only 12-week, very short program. They just throw a lot of stuff at you, and you're building the product, and you're meeting the investors, and, you're also like trying to talk to a lot of communities, because we didn't have a full-blown product at that time. We have a clickable prototype. We just went to the cities and get some data so we can actually train the models and stuff like that. But
can we just deconstruct that? You say you had a prototype, but you realize that there are thousands of utilities, and then you have a prototype. But in between, you have been finding a pain, something that you wanted to solve. So what is it that you wanted to address at that moment?
Yeah, it was, since I've been in the industry for a while, so I know that the biggest pain point that I wanted to solve was a strategic long-term investment, at the same time understanding their operational challenges so that they can actually see what's happening in their system day to day. And then also strategically, they can invest long-term, because you have all these problems that are happening in the network and the drink. Let's pick some examples, like your drinking water, right? So you have all this water main break, like, there's crazy statistics out there in the United States and in Canada. And then you have a lot of leaks, like 20 to 30% of the drinking water that gets lost. They have no idea where they are actually leaking. And then on top of it, you have this huge water main break on the water system. So if I'm a smaller utility, the leaks is, okay, I'm losing money, but that's not their topmost priority. They just wanted to make sure they don't want to be on the news. They don't want to be covered by, the local TV that there is a water main break and 100 people out of water and somebody got injured, right? So they're dealing with a lot of these challenges day to day. And then on top of it, they have to invest into the future, and then like, well, which pipe I should replace? They don't have any framework. They don't have any kind of asset management framework to how do I replace pipe in a organized way so that can benefit most from a dollar perspective. They're investing in the right locations, and they're also getting the most benefit out of it. So that was kind of the first core product that I wanted to build, is kind of a predictive asset management. Get the data from the community and extract intelligence out of it and provide that framework to them. Hey, you should be investing in these locations first before even you start dealing with this stuff. And then once they keep continuing to collect the data, how their system, how often they have a water main break, where they address the leaks, and we can be able to extract intelligence, the pipe materials, the groundwater, soil type, and all those open source data, we can able to pinpoint and give them at least kind of a 90% confidence level. Hey, okay, this is how you should be actually investing long-term and also addressing your short-term bottlenecks in this way, in optimized way. That was the core product we wanted to build.
So that means that today it's like they hope that they fix the right issues, but they don't really have a clue of what they are fixing or in which order they shall be revamping the networks. I can give you an example. In France, there is an investment program which says that you should replace 0.5% of your network every year, which means you are betting that your network is going to last 200 years. And that's just a bet, and it's based on statistics. How is that in the US? And on top of that, is there a difference between a large utility and a smaller size utility? Would they address it the same way, or is it like you replace first your main lines and hopefully if you still have some money or time left, you go to other branches?
I think the problems are the same. It doesn't matter how big you are and how small you are. In the AWWA, American Water Works Association has 0.5%. It's very, very small compared to what they're doing with it. Some of the utilities, they want to achieve 1% here in Kansas City, Missouri. I think they are doing 1%. You have to have a less than 15 water main break every 100 miles of pipe here. They have some kind of a KPI, like a key performance indicators to go by. So if I'm a smaller utility, let's say like a 50,000 or less, they are struggling to even do 0.5% because their rate structure is skewed, and they have to do more with the less amount of money they have. So even with the 0.5%, you have to come up with some kind of framework. Okay, which 0.5% of the pipes I should be replacing, whether it's the age-based calculation. Okay, this pipe has been underground for like 95 years. It's designed for 100 years. Maybe we should replace this pipe in the next 5 years, or should we build a better model to say we can predict, oh, okay, that 95-year pipe could last maybe 120 years. You don't need to touch that pipe for the next 25 years. Maybe go and replace some other pipe which installed in a bad soil condition. Go and fix that. And maybe if it's installed between like a certain time frame, like in 1940 to 1950, the pipe manufacturers were manufacturing to the different standards at that time. Maybe you should replace that pipe first. So giving them kind of a framework, kind of intelligence way that they can use that intelligence to go after the most riskiest pipe, even selecting that 0.5% to optimize it. In smaller utilities, you will be surprised. I mean, I don't know how in France they do it, what kind of models they use, especially on the drinking water side. I think the predictive analytics started from France, because if I remember right, they are the one actually built the LEOIU, the algorithm there to collecting all these data sets. Like actually you can, optimize your investment. A lot of companies like, modern, Fracta and Voda, they kind of borrow that technology. And we also rely on that a little bit. So smaller communities is challenging because one person, he has all this institutional knowledge and he tells the water director, okay, we should be replacing this pipe. We should be replacing that pipe based on what he observes on the field. So we need to capture all those institutional knowledge somehow. Otherwise, it will be lost when he retires. So those kind of stuff that, when we go there, we actually educate the water directors and sewer directors that we can actually do this in a better way, and it will save a tremendous amount of money and resources for the communities in the long term.
So what is this better way? What is this better model that you've been scratching a bit? I hope that's NEER, but how does that work?
Yeah, so we go to the community and then we tell them, hey, there is a better way to do this. Let's use some of the modern tools like machine learning. The technology is there. Let's collect as much as data as possible. Whatever the data you have, you have 50% data, 60% data, that's fine. Let's get all the data, your physical information, your location, your X and Y coordinates, your, fire hydrants and, your all the nodes, water meters, pipe, installation date if you have them, and thickness of the pipe. We can, so we get all this information, whatever the information they have, and then we able to collect the data, and then we normalize the data, meaning that no utility has 100% of the data, so they may have 90%. Some utilities may have like a 40% of the data, but we're able to make a best engineering judgment, populating those missing information. We get to that full data set, and then based on their experience on the field in the last 5 years, even if they have a paper maps, we can be able to capture those information into the NEER platform, and we train the models, meaning we different algorithm to see, can we use this information to validate these failures using the model, and then we can extrapolate what's going to happen the rest of the system. Instead of you writing your program to tell, okay, soil is affecting 20%, groundwater is affecting like 10%, and if the pipe is like near hospital, I give you 20%. Instead of explicitly you're programming all this stuff, why don't we just give all these variables to the computer? Let the computer make the best decision for us, and then we can continue to validate that on the field and continue to get better over time, and then the communities can use that intelligence. So that's kind of what we do.
Talking about the data, what is the typical data that you see is always missing? Is there something that you see a kind of a trend or consistently that data is missing?
It's so, that's a great question, but we don't have a tremendous amount of clients yet, but based on few customers that we have a whole huge spectrum. We have seen utilities, they don't have any GIS data. We have to convert them into GIS. And we have this other system that have pretty much everything that we wanted, but it's not standardized, meaning that if it's a, PVC pipe, and then somebody will enter, polyvinyl chloride, and somebody will just set like, PVC and small caps and, large caps. So there is no consistency among the pipe material. So there is no standardization in the industry, which is kind of sad. Typically, the missing information, even some, invert elevation will be missing. A lot of invert elevation will be missing. Pipe material will be missing, and the thickness of the pipe, which is critical, that will be missing. And even installation date, especially our customer targets, they are missing a lot of installation date. And that's kind of the core, they have X and Y where they are, but there's a lot of variables that's been, missing, kind of even basic rim elevation, the top of the ground elevation. So there is no consistency, but I think some of the larger systems, they do have some kind of I wouldn't say they standardized everything, but at least they are very close to be there till they can actually use the data with the very minimal data manipulation. We can start training the data set, but other data, we need a lot of cleaning just to make sure to get to that standardization of the data. So,
and what is the shape of this data? Is it fully digital data, or do you still have physical data? I'm asking you because in Europe, you would typically, if you go to a utility and you ask, where's your data? I mean, most of them, they would just bring you to a room full of binders and say, hey, here, there's everything we did for the last 200 years, but there's no chance you find, and even if that data is accurate, there's no chance you find the data you're looking for.
I would say most of the data that we get is all GIS, Geographic Information System. They all digitized, at least 90 to 95% of the data. I mean, some states in the United States, the state EPA with the Rural Water Association, they funded this digitization of, GIS, converting the paper maps to the GIS in the last, 10, 15 years. So which is certain states are more advanced in the United States compared to other states. Mm-hmm. And some utilities, especially small utilities, they do have some paper maps. But I think converting from the paper maps to the digital GIS information, it's a huge value for them, right? I mean, you don't need to do any machine learning. They just let's convert the pipe to the GIS and show them digitally how they can interact with this feature. So it's a huge. So we do have a very minimal number of those clients, but not a whole lot. I think 90-95% of the systems already digitized. Especially with the ArcGIS growth in the last 15 years. QGIS and all of the free tools available. So they're able to convert those. But there's a lot of data missing on the digitized data set. So. Which is okay. We can populate that using some machine learning tools.
So you consolidate all of that data into your tool, and with machine learning, you can fill the gaps if there are some. But that is still static data. What about dynamic data? Do you also integrate this aspect of things like measurements on the network, leveraging, IoT, to use some big buzzwords? But how do you bring this into motion?
Yeah, we start with the static data first. In the utilities that we're targeting, they don't have a tremendous IoT sensors data yet. So the real-time kind of a modeling and, understanding, they have maybe water meters, but that they are not collecting every 15 minutes. They collect but they still use drive-by to collect once a month data set on the drinking water. They may have maybe one or two pressure sensors, on the DMA, the district monitoring area, or the pressure zones. So they don't have a lot of IoT sensors yet. So from that perspective, the dynamic data, I think that we have to start somewhere. So we predict all the risk in the system first. That's kind of the long-term strategic. And then on the path, the next is just to moving towards that dynamic data. I have only one pressure sensors in one location. Can we use this pressure sensor to pinpoint exactly whether I have a leak in certain locations? And the answer is yes. We can build a model if you have a pressure sensors, we can actually see if there is a sudden drop in pressure. One pressure sensor is not going to help you, but if you have two pressure sensors in the network, we can actually pinpoint the X and Y where the leak is actually happening. So some of the utilities, they are not there yet. Again, it's a process, but I think we want to bring them, all those communities, affordable technology tools to that finish line, that they have high level of visibility that they can, use on not only the long-term strategic asset management perspective, but also understanding, okay, I know there is a leak is going to happen, or a leak is happening today. Maybe that's like, maybe 1 gallons per minute or something like that. If we can pinpoint that, they can go ahead and fix it without installing a lot of acoustic sensors in the network, and able to pinpoint that, and then able to continue to optimize this model as we build intelligence out of it. It's not going to be like a day one they know exactly where the leaks are, but I think it's a process, right? Some utilities, they do have a lot of sensors, so we can actually convert them right away, using the existing data sets they have to build that model right away based on the data. And then we can be able to pinpoint, where the problem is going to occur before they can address it. And it will be a huge value for them. But I think from the smaller utilities, which is my passion, is, we need to bring these communities to where they need to be in at least the next year or two.
So that means if the data they have is fully static, what you can do is still make a full modeling of their network and tremendously help them with the predictive maintenance. And as soon as you add this kind of dynamic data to the pot, then you can go into leak detection, because that helps you to have a look on the network. But that's still not the majority of the utilities which are into that dynamic level. But can you maybe give them some advice to say, okay, if you had to put a couple of sensors, according to the model, according to what you know about the network, you would put them here, and therewith you would have the best lever to improve in the future. Is it your aim as well?
Yeah, we can do that right now. I mean, we can, we have a simple algorithm to predict, based on their DMA and see, because if you have, pressure sensors are very affordable, acoustic, then, your flow sensors and other sensors. The goal is to use the pressure sensors to pinpoint the leaks. If the pressure is down in 2 different locations, and we can be able to correlate exactly where they are. So we can optimize their, give them suggestions, like you're saying, where they should be putting sensors in. I mean, sensors are the key thing, most of the software runs on hardware. So when we go to the client, we don't tell them, hey, you need this many sensors for our platform to work. We just get to work right away based on whatever the data they have. And then once we provide that long-term strategic risk profile of the entire system, and then we will say, okay, if you really want better, this is what you should be installing your sensors at affordable cost, and then be able to do this, so, and then they get excited, okay, if you can do with whatever the data we have with this, and if you put like a few sensors in here, and then we're able to do that, because sensors are very, very affordable now, we're talking about $20 a month. Even if they put like 10 different sensors, it's only like $200, $300 a month. So they get excited. I think they're looking for tools that actually empower these communities. And I think we believe that NEER can, do that. So
you mentioned the machine learning aspect. You also mentioned it doesn't happen from the first seconds that you can get the full set of data. So what are we talking here? It's like they start using NEER and the next day they get value. What is the aha moment and the wow effect? Is it rather after 1 day, after 1 week, after 1 month, longer? When is this moment where they really realize, oh gosh, NEER helps me so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends on where they are in the data set. If they have a digital data and they have like a 40 or 50% of the data, most of the data is there. And then we just need to fill out the next 50% of the data, the missing information. Then we can get the results within like 8 weeks. Within 8 weeks, provide that risk spectrum of the entire assets. And say like if they have 80 to 90% of the data, everything is complete, and then there's only 10%, we can get like 5 to 6 weeks, we can turn around and give that risk spectrum. And if they don't have any GIS information, you need to convert it into paper maps, and then it's going to take at least 6 months for them to provide the first aha moment, like you're talking about, the risk spectrum of the entire network. And they're able to go to the mayor or the city council to see, hey, this is the risk we are dealing with, and this is where we should be addressing or investing our dollars here and here. So that will happen depending on where they are with the data. It happen as quick as possible, like 5 weeks, or it could happen probably like 3 to 6 months based on where they are at. But I think we are working on a product. I don't want to delve deep into it, but I think our goal is to turn around within 24 hours. It doesn't matter how small or how big your utilities, as long as you have certain data, like a 40 or 50% of the data, we can maybe make it within 24 hours. So that's what we believe the industry can tremendously benefit.
How can I imagine your service? If I'm the director of the public works in a small to middle-sized community, I start working with NEER. First thing you do is you check my data. We see together if it's this 10% or 50% which are missing. I'm now skipping the part that I might not have a gist. I say I have a gist. And then you start working with that. But do I have to understand that? Is it my gist that integrates into NEER, or is it NEER that integrates into my gist? What is my touch point?
Yeah, we can integrate with any system they have. If you use work order management software, you're documenting all your digital information. That's kind of a little advanced communities. Like, if you go to 50,000 to 100,000 or even higher, they, definitely document everything digitally. They have a good ArcGIS, good, CityWorks, Lucity, or Cartograph, they kind of platform there. we can integrate directly through API to bring that data directly into our platform. So they don't need to manually, here is my GIS data, go and figure it out. But we can connect that dynamic like you're talking about. So every time somebody did something in the database, they are documenting where there is a leak, and we can pull that information right away. It can be synced with it. So that's one approach. If they don't have any digital work order management, they just have a GIS, ArcGIS, they are documenting it. We can also connect ArcGIS online to our platform or wherever they are storing database, simple shape files or anything like that. We can refresh that data. And we also, talking with, if they don't have any work order management, which is I'm finding it really, really, some of the small utilities, they don't even have a, good work order management software, so we're talking with few partners that we can actually, help these communities too, because we cannot digitize the entire city's, operations. Our focus is water, right? But we definitely want to help them through partnerships so they can go from digital everything, and then NEER kind of fits on top of it. So
that's the feeding loop. So the data feeds into NEER. NEER makes the modeling and gives some advices. How do I get these advices back? Is it like on the same GIS I'm using, I see this part is in red, so I should act, and this part is in green, so I should put it out of my plan because that pipe is fine for the next 50 years? How is it?
Yeah, it's, we have a different data formats, they can download, which is GIS, again, shapefiles or the file database, or even Excel or CSV, list of all these pipes and score. I mean, the best option is, the shapefiles or GeoJSON file formats. They can actually see it in the GIS, whatever they're using, QGIS or ArcGIS, they can map it out. And then, because what they really want to do is they can go ahead, talk to their operational team, how they operate. You don't need to do all this cleaning here, just clean here, clean here, clean here. We can optimize your operations. And then they can go to the city council or the mayor. We need big dollars to invest into this location because this is the riskiest asset that could fail in the near term. So the maps, definitely the shapefiles and, our GeoJSON format, definitely helps convey that message to their operational team and also their financial team and their city manager and all the higher up people that, who wanted to see this.
And you market NEER as a software as a service, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you mentioned that you already have some customers, which is amazing when you think that your company is not even 1 year old. But I think that's part of the fast iteration, fast experimentation process. How far are you right now with the spread out of NEER? How many customers are we talking here?
I don't disclose how many customers we have today, but I think...
I was expecting that answer.
I apologize for that. But I think, we're still a young company, we're still a startup. I mean, I can tell you we don't have a lot of customers, I mean, I don't know what lot means, but I think each individual customer that we have, everybody's excited about these tools. And, we wanted to grow organically. We don't want to push the growth too fast. We just wanted to... The most important thing for me as the CEO of the company is to help as many communities as possible, as fast as possible, as cheap as possible. And I think we are on the right track. Our platform is maturing. We are adding a lot of features our customers are asking. So we're still in a young cycle. We're still trying to figure out our product market fit. So you said like we have only less than a year. But since, I spent quite some time in this industry, kind of helps accelerate that a little bit. But I think we are still... a small team. We wanted to grow organically and make sure we can provide value to our existing customers.
So I'm going to make an understatement. 2020 has been a special year. How does this special year play on NEER? I mean, if you are in the business of having a restaurant, 2020 is the worst year ever. But I could imagine that being working into helping this smaller community to go into digitization, that's exactly what they experienced. They were probably missing in the month of lockdown or whatever kind of reaction there was to the pandemic. Did you see this kind of things influencing your early development?
Yeah, I mean, pandemic, I think I would say it's flat. It's probably people realizing it's the value of digitization and, understanding their bottleneck in the system, investment, definitely not like a restaurant industry you mentioned. It's kind of flat because people definitely need water. They have to flush the toilet. They have to address flooding. It's kind of flat. Maybe there is a lot more talk that, okay, maybe this is the time that we should actually modernizing our, water infrastructure, not only from the local level, but the state level and all the way, up to the federal level, even predicting this pandemic using, some sampling in the wastewater. So I think we are getting a lot of, acceleration towards the modernization of the, water. And when I say water, including water, wastewater, and stormwater industry, definitely this is going to push the industry forward much faster rate in the next 5 years. That's kind of my opinion. But this year, this is a great year I can't tell, this is a great year for us. It's just kind of flat because we're still trying to figure out our, our product market fit, what our client, what is their pain point, are they really, care about machine learning, or they just, wanted to see, or just give me, I don't care, this is awesome, but I just need this once every 5 years. I don't want it like every month, so we're just still trying to figure out what is our product market fit. So I wouldn't say it's a great year, but so far it's been a very positive experience. In Elemental, we haven't even talked about Elemental, but it's a great help for us to understand. We are in the first go-to-market track, which is what that means is understanding what your customer segment is, understanding, what their main pain point is. Are you building the right tools they need? So it's a very early on for us to even say, well, we have a decent year, I would say. We are very excited about 2021.
You are strongly involved in your local community. I mean, at least in Missouri, I've seen that you're making some move there to provide near to small community around your home base. What is your plan for rollout? Is it first Missouri, then maybe Kansas, or directly the full state, and the word is the limit? What is your first target?
So we're targeting Midwest, not only Missouri, but Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska. That's our core states that we are targeting. We wanted to expand here first. The rest of the United States, we are organically getting clients. They're actually asking, can you help us? And, there's other companies reaching out to us that maybe they can use our product to, help their communities or their clientele. So again, we just wanted to make sure that we are ready for the growth, so we just, like I said, we are still early on trying to make sure that we build the right product, make sure we can handle all the traffic on the back end to support all those services. So we are very choosy and very picky, just to make sure we are growing. But I think next year will be kind of we'll understand who really our clients are and how we want to grow. But as far as, growth for overseas, we're also getting a lot of inquiries from overseas, but we are not there yet. And my goal, a long-term goal, is to hopefully every community on this planet can use NEER to plan their water infrastructure planning, long-term and short-term, and create this affordably. That's the key here. It's not that we are cheap. I think we provide a tremendous value to what we provide, but I think the price has to be right to modernizing the digital water sector. That's my opinion. So if you're building a tool that just works for, only like 200 cities, bigger cities in the entire world, in my opinion, that's not revolutionary. That's not change. We need to make sure the change happens at the bottom level. And my vision is to bring that change to every community, especially the people who need desperate help.
That's a very ambitious vision, and very beautiful vision, I have to say, but very ambitious. What is your intended path to go there? I mean, is it like the startup, scale-up, unicorn path, or rather the steady growth, which leads you step by step to that end goal?
Yeah, we just, like I said, we just step by step. It's not like we want to fly right away. I think we just want to crawl before we walk. We wanted to make sure that we provide tremendous value to our clients, existing clients, and the clients that we take in. I think once you figure that out, you can scale in any number of ways, right? Scaling is not the problem. I think you just want to make sure that all the product that you wanted to build or integrate all the features that will help these smaller communities and empower them. And once you figure that out next year, the scaling is, you can scale through partnership, you can scale through other software companies. You don't need to put a lot of boots on the ground, even overseas nowadays, especially the water, transformation in the industry. We are getting tremendous traction. Kudos to all those programs, Imagine H2O, Elemental, Water Council in Milwaukee, and even Europe. I see tremendous opportunities there, from UK to all the way to France as well. Imagine H2O is also in Asia. So in the industry is going really, fast transformation, I believe. So I think we wanted to be the technology provider, especially, we wanted to be the artificial intelligence platform for water, sewer, and stormwater industry. It doesn't matter where you are. We can reach that point in 5 years. That's kind of my vision. We're going to figure this out. And, we have a great team. We have, great support from Elemental, from generators. So I'm very excited about this opportunity and transformation we can make. The technology is there, the vision is there, and we just need to bring this utilities to the finish line.
Well, I think that makes for a perfect summary for that part. And I just checked my calendar. I'm free in 5 years from now, so we can make the follow-up interview just to check if you reach that goal. Elango, if it's fine with you, I'd propose you to switch to the rapid fire questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's time for the rapid fire questions.
There, the rule is pretty simple. I try to keep the question short, and you have to try to keep the answers short. I'm not cutting the microphone if you want to be a bit longer, but that's the spirit. And usually I'm the one which is making it much longer than it should. So my first question is, what is the most exciting project you've been working on and why?
All the projects I'm working on are exciting, man. It's like asking which child is your favorite. So I'm very excited about all the projects. Each client is different, but I love them all. So.
Fair. I'll take that one. What's your favorite part of your current job?
It's the finish line, right? When you provide those risk score to the client and then they come back and tell you, hey, we've been missing this for a long time. This is actually mayor and the councilman comes and says, okay, this is amazing. This is what we really need. I live for that moment. So that kind of excites me every day. So
when is the last time that happened to you?
I would say that happened to me probably 2 months ago.
Nice. What is the trend to watch out for in the water industry?
Elemental, Imagine H2O, and paying attention to the conferences, WEF and AWWA. And water industry is very, very small. So you can't miss a beat. If you plugged into one entity, then you kind of know them all. So just pay attention to all those water, startup programs out there, and also just pay attention to the conferences and pay attention to some big players like Suez and Xylem and those guys, what they do, and you will be covered. So
let me take you to a sidetrack. I told you I'm always the one making it longer than it should. There's the big players and there's the startups, and I'm not sure if that has always been the case or if that's pretty recent. What is your take there? Are the startups in the water world a new thing, or have they always been around?
I think it's always been around. We are getting so much traction now because, people talking about social impact investment, it is still not compared to other industries like power industry or anything like that. I think we've seen how, make our life much easier, like, the Airbnb, Uber, and all those, high growth Google and everything, that happened in the last, first 10 years, 15 years. Now you sit back and realize, holy cow, we've done all this stuff. We have a Slack, we have, HubSpot for marketing, all this is great tools. But at the end of the day, we have to invest in, hard infrastructure that makes these, at the end of the day, we all live in communities and we need water to survive. So I think people are realizing we are getting to the point that what is important for our lives. And that's the time that, we live in today. So we are going to see a lot of investment in water sector, especially in the social impact, arena. So there's always been the, water startups and the bigger players, but now we are getting to the point the technology is there, the money is there, and then also the communication, the platform, like, the Twitter and Facebook and, all those tools, making it, I think it's pretty big. I think that's kind of my opinion, but I don't know.
It's a good time to be around, I guess.
Yeah.
What is the thing you care about the most when you're working on a new project? And what is the one you care the least about?
I care about most the client motivation, their vision for the city or for their utilities, short-term and long-term. That's the most thing I care about. And the least we care about is the data. It doesn't matter where they are with the data. We can get them, to the finish line. it's a client motivation. The client has to be excited, in my opinion, to see what we see as the industry vision. And if they are excited, even if they don't have any money, I'll work with them, so.
Great. Well, you already mentioned a couple, so I'm going to ask you for other ones. So my question is, do you have sources to recommend to keep up with the latest water and wastewater trends?
Yeah, there's, a lot of research there, Bluefield Research, Water Online News. And like I said, it's very, very small. Bluefield Research is a great thing. They have a tremendous report, where the United States market is. I mean, especially I pay a lot of attention to the United States market. And internationally, also, the Water Resources Institute. And, there's a lot of, online. I mean, you just need to type in something in YouTube and Google. You're going to see... You're going to see everything, whatever you see. I think there's a lot of podcasts like yourself. You're doing an amazing job. And I've looked into all your previous podcasts. Now, there's a lot of water podcasts is also coming out. So, which is nice. People are talking about it. And, you bring in all these people, visionaries in the industry that, what they can automate and how they can improve the process that we've been doing for the last, 50, 60 years in the water industry. So everything is pretty easy nowadays to get what's coming up next, what is the next big thing in the water. So
talking of those people, would you have someone to recommend me to invite to that same microphone just after you?
I started this company because of Seth Siegel. So I think he's approachable. He's not I think he's an author of Let There Be Water and, Troubled Water. So I think you should invite him. That's my recommendation. I don't know him personally, so I can't, make the warm intro for you. But I think he's pretty approachable based on, if you ask him, send him a message on Twitter, I think he will be more than happy to do it.
I'm going to give it a try and let's see. I mean, if he was able to inspire you to
but yeah, if he's not available, talk to Kim Baker, Elemental Director of Water Innovation. She's great. I don't know if you already interviewed her or not, but she's
no,
great.
I didn't. So. But I saw a couple of interviews of her. So.
Yeah, she's a champion of water. She's doing amazing in Elemental. She see 800 applications a year. So, if you really want to talk about trends, you just pick up the phone and call her. Hey, what you've been seeing? And she's amazing. I think you should invite both, and see which one willing to give time for you.
Good. Thanks a lot for the advice. Actually, Elango, you've been an awesome guest. Where can people find you online?
LinkedIn is kind of, very active in LinkedIn, Elango Thevar, or come to NEER.ai website. You can find all the social media links. And, I'm there in Twitter and LinkedIn, or you can also email me, Elango at NEER.ai. So ELANGO at NEER.ai.
I'll put all of that in the episode notes. So, everybody can have those contacts. I mean, Elango, thanks a lot for your time. That was really, really interesting to me discussing with you. I hope I didn't bother you too much with my French accent and French questions, but that was a pleasure.
No worries. My son learned French. I'm not French. My wife is not French, but my son goes to a French school and he speaks French, believe it or not. So you didn't bore me at all. So love the language. I've been there a couple of times in France. So love the country. Great European, architecture. So not at all. But thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it. And one last thing is, you didn't ask the question, but NEER is water in my language. It's a Tamil. There are 80 million people speak in South Indian language. NEER is just water. So that's kind of my plug to my language. So
it's really great that you explained that, because I wasn't even thinking that would have a meaning. And actually, you're right. I should have asked. Nice story behind the name. Cool.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think you're doing an amazing job, and thanks for, what you do. You need it for the industry to brainstorm and see what everybody's doing. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to Don't Waste Water. This podcast was brought to you by GF Piping Systems. Loved this episode? Head over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. See you next time.